Chairs No Waiting, episode number 244, Parley Bear, part 2. Two Chairs No Waiting is brought to you by the fine folks over at Weaver's Department Store. Drop by over at Weaver's and pick up something for a friend in your life. You got to have some Mayberry folks out there you like. Give them a 2014 Andy Griffith Show calendar or a Dillard CD. All kinds of things over at weaversdepartmentstore.com for the Mayberry fan in your life. Two Chairs No Waiting is also brought to you by donations from listeners just like you. The executive producer of Two Chairs No Waiting, number 244. Well, there's two of them, Tim Hollis and Donnie Pickford. Thanks, Tim and Donnie. Now, Tim and Donnie are some of the officers over at the National Lum and Abner Society. Now, if you guys haven't ever checked that out, we've talked about them the last couple of weeks. But there are some of the officers, and Sam Brown's another one. I should have probably added him in there as well, because all of them had something to do with putting this together that we've listened to last week. It's part 1 of Parley Bear. And tonight we're going to hear part 2. There's all kinds of wonderful things over at the Lum and Abner Society. We'll have a link on our website. But if you want to try to go, it's lumandabnersociety.org. Spell out all the words. lumandabnersociety.org. And they've even got a comic strip that Donnie does, and they actually put words to them. I think, I say words. They actually act them out like an old radio show. It's awesome. Now, Lum and Abner, for those that don't know and didn't listen last week, go back and listen last week, and you'll find out who they are. Now, Lum and Abner are great, and so are Tim and Donnie and Sam. I just thank them for letting us use these clips that we've used last week when we heard from Parley Bear, Mayor Stoner, over in Mayberry. We got to hear from him as he talked about his radio career and just how he got his start and different people he knew in radio. And a lot of them were people like Hal Smith, Otis, and Howard McNear, Floyd the Barber, from the Andy Griffith Show. So I definitely want to encourage you, if you hadn't heard part 1 from episode number 243, head back over and check that out, because that is something you do not want to miss. Because if you're going to listen to this episode or watch it, if you're watching on YouTube, then you're definitely going to have checked out the first part as we hear from Parley Bear. Now, tonight we're going to be hearing from him more about his movie and television career. And again, this is from the National Lum and Abner Society. They had a meeting, a convention in Pine Ridge, Arkansas, back in 1995. And this is where this was filmed. Parley Bear was the guest of honor, special guest for the evening. And so we're about to hear from Parley as he's going to talk more about some of his radio career. First off here, we're going to be hearing as he's talking about when he was on I Love Lucy, as he got into television and movies and things like that. So let's head on in there so we can enjoy it. So take it away, Tim Hollis, Donnie Pickford, so you're going to hear, and Parley Bear. So take it away, guys.
Wonderful. And of course, just to show that we're not limited to radio around here, we're going to show you some TV and film clips one at a time here of this gentleman's work, and after each one we'll give him a chance to tell us if he has any funny or tragic or boring memories, ever what kind there may be.
He's being very kind. What he means is after each clip they're giving me an opportunity to defend myself.
We'll present the evidence first.
This particular show, back in my distant past, I worked at Wild Animal Act, and Lucy used to kid me about this. And a guy named Jim Folsom had the sheep there. And there was one that kept following me in there, and while we were waiting for the scene to be set to be lighted, Lucy said, "Okay, Bear, you're an animal trainer. Let's see what you can do with one of these." And this sheep that had been following me, I said, "Get up there." And that sheep jumped up there. Scared me to death. I thought I'd put some sort of hex on it. And Lucy looked bug-eyed at it, and Jim Gilmore said, what the hell happened here? He said, you picked the one sheep that had been trained. And I thought, gosh, I thought, boy, I'm a better trainer than I thought the first time I met him. But this.
So that's from I Love Lucy. Parley was talking about appearing on I Love Lucy, and he talks some more about other television shows, but that one was the one I thought was kind of interesting and funny. Now we're going to head over and hear him tell about his time on Disney movies and the Andy Griffith Show and some other things like that. But I know you're going to enjoy this. I want you to pay attention. He's going to talk about, during one part of it, where he was in a Disney movie. I can't remember the name of it, but he'll tell us in a second, where he acted with a bear. And then he goes on talking about the Andy Griffith Show, about the bear that chased the mayor up into the back of the squad car. You know, it got into the back of the squad car. The mayor's up in a tree. Andy and Barney on top of the car. Anyway, he tells about that. So I think he learned something about bears while he was in the Disney movie, and this bear he's going to tell us about. So let's head on back over and hear what he's got to say about working in Disney and some of the other things he did.
And what were some of the other animated cartoons that you...
Well, I did the Gnome Mobile. I played the owl in that with Walter Brennan, and I did a lot of the Johnny Appleseed things there. It was always a joy to work at the Disney studios. One of the few places that they did not regard actors as necessary nuisances. And you'd go in there, they had your thing. I did a show there a picture called Those Callaways that I worked. There was I had to work with a bear, and it had chased me in a pond of water, and gosh, it splashed. The lens got wet, everything happened. I went in that pond. It was in November, ice around the edges of it. I went in there 2 or 3 times. The bear followed me in there. And I must have gone in, 10, 12 times. And finally we got it. And then when the picture hit the screen, all that scene had been edited out. I had moss growing on my north side. But
well, that's showbiz.
Yeah. The first show I ever did was the one with the bear in it. And a friend of mine named Frank Lamping had the bear. And I took a look at the bear, and Frank came over and I said, "What is a Himalayan sun bear doing in the woods of North Carolina?" And he said, "Shut up and fool, the other bear's working." So you notice that white V on the bear in there? Well, probably the only time in history that there was a wild Himalayan sun bear in the woods of North Carolina.
And of course, you had a lot of old colleagues working on that show, like Howard McNair and Hal Smith.
Howard McNair, Hal Smith, and Mary Lansing, Francis Bavier. Hal and Howard were 2 of my dearest friends, and it was a great loss.
You may, some people may have remembered, or they may not have, that Howard McNair appeared on Lum and Abner quite a bit as well. He was Dr. Roller, the pest controller. He was Mr. Talbert, who robbed the store once. He was Detective Wilson in the Mountain View Hotel series. So he was quite active on their program as well. So I don't think Hal Smith was ever on Lum and Abner, but
he probably, if he wasn't, it's the only one he was never
probably
on.
not.
Hal, gosh, those guys, Hal, he and I had a running thing. We'd go out on an interview, and he'd say, "You busy?" I'd say, "No." "What you doing after?" "Nothing." "Well, let's go get a cup of coffee and sit and lie to each other for a while." Okay, and we did. And I picked that up with Cliff. He and I have been sitting and lying to each other every time we had a time. But there isn't a day that I don't think of those 2 guys that I don't mourn their passing. They were great friends and 2 of the finest actors who ever came down the path.
One thing that I know must have been nice after making all of those guest appearances and so forth, in 1969, he finally got steady work.
Sir, you're going into the real world?
Yes, people have to know how uncommonly good Keebler cookies and crackers are.
Do people believe in elves?
One taste, and they'll believe.
What's the real world?
Who is it?
Ernie Keebler, ma'am.
The elf?
Yes, ma'am?
I don't believe in elves.
Do you like chocolate?
Honey, I live for it.
You should try our Chocolate Lovers Chips Deluxe cookies.
Slide one through the mail slot.
Only elves use 2 kinds of chocolate.
Ooh, big milk chocolate chunks and semi-sweet chips, too. Wow! I love these Chips Deluxe.
Now, do you believe in elves?
Honey, for another cookie, I'd believe you're Elvis.
Keebler cookies, uncommonly good.
And he's never been without dessert at home since, right?
I did some of these mixture of animation and live spots with Clint Black, and when I go home Monday, we're doing 3 more radio spots with him. You know, a woman's power is really great. Clint could be a little waspish. The TV spots, I didn't see him. I did my job and he did his. And who's Clint married to? Somebody said. Who? Lisa Hartman. Lisa Hartman. And the director and the writer, man is the unlikely name of T.S. Eliot, and a pretty good name in its own. But T.S. said that he wasn't quite pleased with some of the things that had happened, and he said, "I want to do these over." He said, "I'm not quite satisfied." And he said, Clint said, "Well, I'm satisfied, and I'm leaving." And his wife came in. She said, "You're not leaving until the director is satisfied." Yes, dear. And he went over. So I guess it's true that behind every big man there's a bigger woman. But she wasn't there when we did the radio spots, and we're doing 3 more Monday. I'd like to meet her. He behaved himself pretty well. I guess he gave him a talking to before he came.
Well, you said you auditioned.
All right, so that was Parley talking about some of his career on movies and TV. Of course, the Andy Griffith Show, he talked about that. Now, I want to go back. We are talking about Parley Baer, but I want to just review so you guys will understand that the connection between Lum and Abner and Parley Baer and the Andy Griffith Show. Well, Lum and Abner, I did an episode about the radio program Lum and Abner, oh my goodness, in April 2011. It was episode number 130 of Two Chairs No Waiting, so you can go back and listen or watch that. It's on video as well. And what you'll find out, I mentioned it last week, but do you remember Mr. Dokes over at the grocery store who was having the competition between Opie and the other boy to see who would actually get the job at the grocery store? Well, Mr. Dokes was Abner Peabody on the radio, so he was Abner of Lum and Abner, and he and his partner had played that role on radio, and Andy actually was a big fan of Lum and Abner, and so he had Mr. Dokes, who was able to, he had him on the show because he was such a big fan. His name is Norris Goff. But he was excited to get him on the Andy Griffith Show because he was a fan of his. And so Norris Goff was also Mr. Dokes and Abner Peabody. So you can go and listen and hear a lot more about that over on the episode number 130 of Two Chairs No Waiting. It was called From Pine Ridge to Mayberry. Now, before we get back to Parley, I've got just a little bit more of him where he talks a little bit about Andy. I wanted to give you a little bit of feedback I'd gotten in the last week, and one of them was from Donnie Pickford. He had written in, and basically I'd said to him, because I was writing back and forth with him, I said, Lum and Abner, are pretty close to being from Mayberry, in their hearts anyway. That's what I'd written to Donnie, and Donnie said, he asked this question, would there have been a Mayberry had there not been a Pine Ridge? Now, Pine Ridge was where Lum and Abner was set, in the little town of Pine Ridge, Arkansas. And I said, that's an interesting question. We know that Andy Griffith loved Lum and Abner, so it's something to think about how much Pine Ridge may have influenced Mayberry. Well, Donnie wrote back with this reply. He said, I'd say there was a lot of influence, as well as that Andy's hometown influenced Andy. He believed Pine Ridge influenced Andy. Lum and Abner mirrored so many small towns, which is why we all feel such a warmth and kinship with both programs, Lum and Abner and the Andy Griffith Show. Lum and Abner initiated the genre that grew into the Andy Griffith Show and others. I feel like they are related in that way. I thought, that is so true. When you listen to those old radio programs, if you listen to them, I really feel like Lum and Abner, and actually the Great Gildersleeve is another one I'm real fond of. They have a feeling very much like the Andy Griffith Show. And I definitely want to encourage you to head over there and listen to them. Now, on last week's episode, Parley was also talking about how he really appreciated the audience, the people that were at this convention for Lum and Abner, these old-time radio fans. He mentioned how it was really them that have saved so many of the programs, because when television came along, they just hauled off the recordings of all these old radio performances and just burned them and threw them into the landfills. And had a fellow named Eric Paul Johnson. He had written in on the Facebook page for Two Chairs No Waiting. He said, I'm so with you on the old radio things. I groaned and winced when Parley said they just chucked all those shows in a dump or in a fire. It kills me to think of all that old radio just tossed aside like rancid meat. Short-sighted executives, they're gone forever. And that is sad, because there were so many great performances. There's something about listening to an old radio program, if you ever get a chance to do it. It just makes you use your mind to draw the town around them. So Pine Ridge, Arkansas, we never actually saw, or at least I didn't. There's some movies that you actually could see them. But you get such a picture of this town where Lum and Abner run the Jot 'em Down store. And you just get such a picture of what the town is like that, we get that. We know what we think the town of Mayberry looked like. We saw it, but there's a lot of things we never saw. There's a lot of things that we had described to us, people we never saw. Sarah, we all kind of have an idea what we think Sarah looked like. And there's just something special about not knowing for sure and just having a picture in your mind that's what they look like. So I definitely want to encourage you to head over there and check out those kind of things on old radio programs. I love them, and I think you would too. Mayberry fans, it's just something very nostalgic for it. So I want to take you back. We got one more question. It's only about 30 seconds here. This is from Parley Bear. And somebody asked him, how was Andy Griffith to work with? So let's go back and see what his reply was.
Work with. Wonderful. Very nice. There was a happy family. They did things when Ron was just a little kid. The prop men kept scooters and bicycles on the prop truck for him, and when he wasn't working or going to school, he'd skim around the lot or even on the stage on bicycles. It was great. You look forward to going to work.
Tell them some of the others.
So that was his comments about how Andy Griffith was to work with and working on the Andy Griffith Show set. So, wow, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. It's rare to be able to find little bits and pieces of interviews from people who were on the Andy Griffith Show that have passed away. So I am so thankful to the Lum and Abner Society, the National Lum and Abner Society, for allowing us to use this wonderful interview with Parley Bear. Now, there's some links in our show notes for not only this interview, but there's some great interviews from the old Gunsmoke stuff with Parley Bear, where he talks about Hal Smith. You definitely want to go back and listen to those. There's links in the show notes you'll see that say Two Chairs Gunsmoke episodes. Go over there and check those out. You can also listen to all the episodes about Lum and Abner that I've done. There's a link right there telling you about that, where not only was Norris Goff, not only did he play Mr. Dokes, he also played Gomer Pyle's grandpa on an episode of Gomer Pyle. So you can go and check out all that kind of stuff, all those things. If you go to the Lum and Abner episodes of Two Chairs No Waiting, there's a link in our show notes. You can go and check that out. And again, I just want to thank the National Lum and Abner Society for all they did to make this show possible. And I want to thank you for coming to Mayberry with me tonight and just visiting and learning a little bit more about Parley Bear, Mayor Stoner. And I'd love to hear from you. You can give me a call at 888-684-8415. You can drop me an email at floyd@imayberry.com, or you can drop by twochairsnowaiting.com and leave a comment on any of our show notes. You can also email me, or did I already tell you, floyd@imayberry.com. I'd love to hear from you, in other words. Give me a call, email me, drop by our Facebook page, drop by wherever you want to go. I'd love to hear from you. Folks, you guys have a great Mayberry week, and we'll see you next time on Two Chairs.